So instead of focusing on warfighting and how to best kill the enemy, the U.S. Air Force Academy hosted a transgender Pentagon official for a symposium on inclusion. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
All too often, I hear leaders talk about providing everyone with dignity and respect like it's an aspirational goal. That's not good enough. Dignity and respect is the bare minimum. It's the floor of where we can be. We must set our sights higher and focus on intentional inclusivity, because there are still far too many people out there, not just LGBTQ individuals, that feel marginalized, shut out, or discriminated against. So for all of you out there, I ask you to set out your symbols of pride, share your pronouns in your email, particularly if you're a person who doesn't think they need to. Initiate difficult conversations about racial and gender barriers, and share a bit of your vulnerability in a way that draws others in. You all have the power to take intentionally
So this is kind of amazing.
Yeah, I love it when ideologues tell other people how to do their job. I mean, this is totally unrelated to how you defeat the enemy. I mean, I want exclusivity. I want to exclude the enemy off the face of the earth. And how much training did you have where you were basically told grunt or, maggot or something? Give me 10. Give me 20.
Right. I mean,
I bet that made you feel really included.
The military has, a ton of death by PowerPoint, and it is, the way of the future is to continuously add additional training items onto the soldier. So welcome to Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me always is my wife, Kimberly McNabb. And if we look at all of this additional training that we're doing, it is taking away from the warfighter's mission.
Yeah, exactly. And, these ideologues and Congress people are just going to kill our poor service members with more PowerPoint instead of letting them do their jobs.
Right. I mean, I retired approximately 9 years ago, and when you look at the training that I had to do, there's mandatory quarterly training and yearly training. So you have the SHARP training, which is the sexual harassment and prevention training. You have the equal opportunity training. These are all fine. Hey, just as a reminder, you're not allowed to discriminate against somebody based on their race or religion. Hey, just a reminder to everybody, you're not allowed to do sexual assault, and you're not allowed to harass people in the workplace. We also had counterterrorism training. So never stay on the first floor of a building. You don't want to go higher than the 7th floor of a building because the ladders on a fire truck can't reach higher than that. Never sit on the aisle of a aircraft. There are things that you learn through this counterterrorism stuff. So all of that stuff is good stuff. But as you are continuously adding more and more frivolous type training, i.e. how to correctly use your pronouns, I think we're starting to lose some of the mission. If you look at the warfighter and across all services, you're seeing an increase in aircraft, whether it's the Marine Corps or the Air Force or the Navy. You're seeing an increase in aircraft that are crashing and killing service members. You're seeing an increase in ship collisions in the Navy. You're seeing an increase in groundings of naval vessels on charted atolls and things like that. You're seeing a increase in fires and the great damage that the fires are doing to Navy ships. And what we're seeing is there too much of this, social justice training that is going on instead of the Navy learning navigation, instead of the Navy learning how to put out fires correctly and spending time doing those jobs. Aircraft maintenance. How many PowerPoint presentations were done on social justice before any lax maintenance is going on with these aircraft? And that's kind of the problem I have with it.
Well, yeah, there are only so many hours of the day, and you're already getting death by PowerPoint for other, actual reasons, and this is not. I'm sorry, the ship doesn't care what your pronouns are. Your enemy doesn't care what your pronouns are. It's just exhausting, and you're going to put people to sleep, and then they're not going to pay attention for the actually important
right
presentation.
And so the military is obviously responsible for this to the civilian government, right? So the military has obviously officers, non-commissioned officers, and enlisted, but they have service chiefs, which are generals and admirals and things like that. But the Department of Defense, the Secretary of Defense is a civilian. Each of the sub branches of the military, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Space Force, are all headed by a civilian, right? So there's a
so
civilian
they don't
chain
really
of
know what
command.
they're talking about then.
Right. Well, the point that I'm trying to get to is that the military has to listen to the civilian leadership, and we're not able to go and do on our own. We have to be respectful. So here's an example of an admiral just absolutely doing a great job of being stone-faced on an incident that happened a number of years ago with a congressman. So let's just go ahead and take a quick look.
A lot of odd things happen in Planet Washington. I actually thought this was kind of an April Fool's joke when I saw it today, but it's not. Took place last week in a House Armed Services Committee hearing discussing a military buildup on the island of Guam. Here's Georgia Congressman Hank Johnson. Listen.
This is a island,
And this is true.
At its widest level is 12 miles from shore to shore, and at its smallest level, or smallest location, it's 7 miles between one shore and the other. Is that correct?
I don't have the exact dimensions, but to your point, sir, I think Guam is a small island.
Very small island, and about 24 miles, if I recall, long. So 24 miles long, about 7 miles wide at the least widest place on the island, and about 12 miles wide on the widest part of the island. And I don't know how many square miles that is. Do you happen to know?
I don't have that figure with me, sir. I can certainly supply it to you if you'd like.
So this is the admiral is in the military. We're never told to just say, I don't know, right? So you always say, I don't know, but I will find out the answer for you, which is common in the military. The I don't know and leaving it at that never holds water. It's always, but I will find out the answer and I'll get it to you. So great job on the admiral for doing that.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
He said that out loud. He said that out loud. So let's go ahead and listen to the admiral's response to that.
We don't anticipate that.
We don't anticipate that.
His response should have been, here's your sign.
Right.
First of all, not everybody from Georgia speaks that painfully slowly. And what is he doing, taking information for a Wikipedia page, like square miles? I mean, what does that have to do with anything? And you're afraid that the island of Guam is going to tip over? Oh my God, I am so sorry that our honorable service members have to answer to such dumbasses. And is he still a member of Congress?
He's still a member of
Congress. We are not sending our best. Please tell me this is not our best.
He's still a member of Congress, but
is he a flat earther?
The thing, yeah, I don't know. But the thing is obviously the admiral has to be respectful because he's part of the civilian leadership. And unfortunately, it's people like this that are enforcing social justice programs on the military. The military has always been, unfortunately, a social experiment that can't say no, because we are beholden to our oath to the Constitution, and we have to follow these people, these civilian leaders, regardless of whatever stupid thing that they want to impose upon the military. The military just has to do it. It's different for an FBI agent. An FBI agent, if asked, or if a Border Patrol agent is asked to do something that they do not believe in, they can quit. They can quit, and the very next day they can go to their cubicle and take their box or whatever, and they can leave. And it's no harm, no foul. In the military, you can't quit. You just can't quit. You'll go to jail. You'll get a dishonorable discharge. It will affect your life forever. If you get a dishonorable discharge, if you failure to obey orders, failure to adapt, conduct unbecoming, anything that you do to speak out, you are going to get destroyed and your life is over. But anywhere else in the government, you can quit. And if you disagree with something, so the military is a breeding ground for social justice programs. And the thing is, they can't do anything about it.
Assets.
Yeah, exactly. You're property of the United States government, and unfortunately, this has a degradation to military readiness. I mean, we're already seeing the recruiting problems because of the woke programs. And the Secretary of the Army said, "Look, people stop talking about our woke programs so that people don't think there's a problem." Well, how about you don't have woke programs?
Exactly. No.
It could be that. Instead of stopping talking about it, how about stopping the programs and do it that way? I mean, the Army has been working on revamping its physical fitness test. And so the old system was 2 minutes of push-ups, 2 minutes of sit-ups, and a 2-mile run as fast as you can go. And there's standards for age and gender. And so the Army...
Biological sex.
Yeah, exactly. So the Army was looking at doing revamping it so that it would be more combat focused. So there's pull-ups and side pull-ups and deadlifts and combat carries, shuttle run and stuff like that. All great stuff to more accurately simulate the tasks that you would do in combat. And it was gender neutral. The problem is that as it was gender neutral, a greater percentage of females were failing the test. And so Congress said, hey, Army, you need to rework this so that and lower the standards so that more females can pass the test. Man, that is just the opposite of what we need to do.
You know who's not lowering their standards? The enemy.
Right, exactly.
Hello. I tell our kids all the time, like, don't get in the way of someone else doing their job. Like if they have a janitor at school, don't get in the way if they're doing their job. Don't make their job harder. Don't make mommy's job harder. Don't make me pick you up getting out of the bed. And Congress is actively making the military jobs harder. They need to stand back and just let them do their job. And we've we've mentally and physically castrated men for the last few decades. And now we're at a point where if China looks at us and say, you throw like a girl, you fight like a girl, instead of that being an insult, people like that Pentagon official would take it as a freaking compliment.
Right. I mean, it is sad. I mean, we have, you see the level of training that the U.S. military does in the past as it pertains to now. And obviously for 2 decades we had the global war on terrorism, and so we had a military that was pre 9/11 and obviously the military that's post 9/11. We mostly have been focusing for the past 2 decades on counterinsurgency or COIN operations, and now we need to focus on high intensity conflict, which is maneuver battle space with armor and tanks and things like that. And I am saddened to see that there's this degradation of training as it pertains to men, weapons, and equipment, and having to integrate all of those while having to try and figure out whose pronouns or whether this lieutenant colonel is wearing long hair and earrings in uniform, lecturing people on inclusivity.
Well, this is just a symptom of us, calling men, toxic masculinity. Okay, first of all, shut up and tell me what's good masculinity. People that can kill the enemy. That's what I want. And they need to shut up with their toxic feminism. It's toxic feminism. I mean, this is the garbage that we get when we constantly demonize men. And you're having to see it with the lowering of standards of training, because we just aren't having generations of real men. And I've been going to the gym for a long time, as you know. I mean, I remember going to the gym with my dad, and you'd see guys wearing 1980s, gym stuff that's not there enough, not covering enough, but there's no AC. It's, they're not wearing the weight belts. They're not wearing the little gloves to keep calluses from forming or whatever. They didn't care. They wanted to lift the heaviest weights. They wanted to run the fastest on these little dinky treadmills that shook the whole building when you did it. But you were there to work. You were there to sweat, and you were there to trash talk the other men.
Right.
You were there to build some muscle, and you just. Now, if you go into a gym, everybody's on their phone, and it's just pathetic.
Right. We found a little video that kind of, moves in between generations of 1980s
when men were men
working out, and then now. And we'll for our listening audience, we'll call out some of the people that are
some of the movie titles,
some of the movies that are in here. So
1980s training.
So you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, you've got Tom Cruise, Dolph Lundgren, Sylvester Stallone, Mr. T, Ralph Macchio, Predator, Carl Weathers, and then now we're moving into 2023.
We have stretching with a pole. Dad bod looking at his phone on a stationary bike. Oh, get that foam roller. Foam roller. Get it. Oh, tennis ball. Yep, can't forget the tennis ball. Stretch those. No. Lunges. Oh, get that resistance band. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the enemy's laughing at us. It's so bad. Oh, I do not feel safe with these people guarding our country. I want to see this. I would feel safe with that. Or better yet, this.
Oh.
Yeah. That makes me feel really safe.
Right. Well, we saw this at the Air Force Academy, and it just needed to be called out so that you can see what is happening in the military. Unfortunately, with the being beholden to the civilian leadership, which it needs to be. Obviously, we don't want the military running amok, but with the civilian leadership, especially under the Biden administration, continuing the march of social experimentation on a captive audience such as the military, it's just a degradation of our combat power. Yep. So thank you so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.